Hey, how's it going everyone? As this figure swings around, we're just going to jump straight into it because this is the Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku S.H Figuarts, the very first from GT, and yeah, he's actually really nice. I've been having a little bit playing around, done some photos, there's 360 images up on Rockchala shortly, and a nice selection of images, and I'm going to be posting some more on Instagram as well, so there are links on my channel for those if you haven't checked it out already, so be sure to do that if you want to see some more variety of them in different poses and accessories and with other characters. But yeah, so jumping in, here's a retail release in Japan, and his price is 6,050 yen, so about 60 US roughly, and he was delayed 1 month, and that means he'll probably be delayed a month for other regions as well, so expect him either December or January for other areas. Now, being retail release, he doesn't have a Tamashii logo on the box, but they do have a brand new Dragonballz GT1 and a silver Toei sticker. Now remember, there is the Tamashii quality sticker as well. If you are new to the line, if you're just getting into it because of Super Saiyan 4 Goku, this is a good sticker to keep an eye out for to make sure it is a legitimate figure or not. So yeah, that's one main sign to keep an eye out for. If you are buying it from the USA, you will have a sticker on the back here for Bluefin. If it's from Taiwan, Hong Kong, there'll be an import sticker there as well, and pretty sure for Europe as well. But yeah, on the back we've got a nice selection of images showcasing his final Kamehameha, his awesome new articulation from the redesigned joints on him, which we'll get a bit of a closer look at a little bit later in this video. So yeah, let's just pop him out and check out his accessories. Here he is out of his packaging, and yeah, for a retail release he's pretty stacked with accessories. This is exactly what I love to see with these releases. I wish I do it for every single retail release. But yeah, starting on the top left here, we've got 3 additional faceplates. We've got a slightly frowning, angry look, and then a teeth gritting side look, and the wide mouth open screaming face there. Oh, sorry, this face is a slight smiling one, this is a slight frowning one that's on his body at the moment. But we'll get a closer look at those shortly. Going down the side though, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pairs of hands. The 2 teleportation ones, the ones for doing his Kamehameha, the general open hand ones for martial arts grip, and these ones are for the Kamehameha pose as well, but they do have an additional peg which slots into the key blast, which is quite nice. So you get 1 per hand, so you can have a good variety of posing there, so you're not just limited to the 1 hand like some of the other figures, like the recent Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. They only have the left hand from memory with that additional peg, so it's nice that we've got 1 of each. And down the right side we do have all the different effect parts that will combine on the keyboard down there to create the Kamehameha blast. Essentially the same as all the other releases, though I believe these are slightly thicker in size, and it went together really nice when I gave it a little test earlier. Then we also have a tail here, yeah, which has the 1 single point of articulation. It's pretty similar to the tails that you get with Frieza or the Kid Goku figures. Some more articulation would have been quite nice, but then it would have probably been quite ugly, so maybe an additional tail could have been quite handy. Maybe in the future for an additional Super Saiyan 4 release. So we've gone out of packaging here for a closer look before we jump into the articulation, but I feel like the colouring on this guy looks really nice. It does have a kind of a deeper red but kind of pinkish light colour as well, which I feel matches the fur that he has, especially since in the show there is often that kind of purplish background moon glow in there, so that kind of comes through in the colouring. The yellowy mustard colour on his pants I think looks really nice, and same with the blue. I think, yeah, overall the colouring has worked out really well on this figure, and I do feel like it matches up nicely. I do also like the fact on the back here with his tail, you do have a kind of jagged bits of clothing where his tail does pop out of his pants. So that's pretty accurate to how it looks on the show. So it's nice that they did go for the extra detailing there. For his hair, he does have 2 bangs on the side here which will move. They have a slight articulation, and the back part of his hair as well does pivot up and down slightly, so you do have some articulation points in there which we'll get a closer look at shortly. Beyond that, the overall finish and quality, I feel like it's really nice. The hair has come out of the moulding really well. There's only a couple of little parts on the lower pants which I think could have been a little bit tighter, but we'll go over that at the end of this video and the pros and cons. Before we have a look at its articulation, one thing I just want to quickly go over is a lot of people are saying that this is a 3.0 body type. Personally, I'm more on the fence that it's just an adjustment of the current ones, and it probably won't be what we'll see going forward in every figure. There's a lot of figures that do have unique joints just for that figure itself to make it work, and that's kind of how I feel they've gone with this figure here. But hopefully the extra range that we do get in this figure will come through in future molds. But it seems like the upcoming couple of Goku figure releases are still using the older body type. So it may just be the fact that this general Super Saiyan 4 has a bulkier look to it and fur, so they were able to go around it with a different design to allow for the extra articulation. And same for his legs. But hopefully we will see this kind of redesign slowly trickling through future Goku releases. So it'll be interesting to see what comes after the recently revealed Dragon Ball superhero movie Goku. Okay, so for the articulation, we'll start at the top. We'll go through the Super Saiyan 4 Goku just by himself, and then we'll compare the range of motion with a Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku after this. But starting at his head, he does have some decent range going forward, but going back is a bit more limited, and that is because he does have his hair at the back. Though he does have two parts that will move, so you can slightly swivel these and adjust them around, and same for the front two bangs here, so they can move out to the side quite well and in, so depending how you're posing them, they don't really get in the way too much, which is really nice. And instead of being completely fixed, that would cause quite a few issues with its range of motion. And yeah, everything blends in really nicely. You can't really tell the joints are there unless you're kind of looking from underneath. So yeah, the range of motion with his head, despite all that volume of hair, I think is really nice. Moving down to the shoulders now, we've got a nice range which goes all the way up. That's pretty natural in terms of the range you can get, and then if you swivel it around, it has some nice joints, you can go all the way up. The joints on this move really nice. I haven't had any real issues with tough joints on the top part of his body, so yeah, that's nice to see. Well, the range I think is pretty similar to the other figures. I think it does go in a little bit further, which is quite nice. But the main benefit of this figure is he can come around to the front a lot more than other figures. I think that is just partly due to the design in here and the way the butterfly joints on the inside can hinge out. And when it does pull around, everything still works nicely. You can still see the fur, the textured plastic on the back here, so you don't really get any of those ugly joints showing through, which is really nice. It definitely makes it a lot easier to get him into that Kamehameha pose, which I do have some photos of that, so you can check those out at the end of this video. Moving down to the waist now, the torso, few millimeters of range there. I would still like to see more range in the section of the torso. So you can go back a little bit, but forward again only by a few millimeters. Though he does kind of move on the lower part of his waist there and the hips, so when you move both of them together, the range isn't too bad. Though it'd be nice to get a bit more, but he does move to the left and right extremely well. There's nothing really there stopping his motion, which is really nice. Moving down further, we have the new redesign of the hip leg region, and yeah, this kind of reminds me of a 1.0 body. It's kind of like a cross between 1.0 and a 2.0, but you do get a decent range of motion going out. The splits there, I think that's pretty much comparable to the recent Piccolo release, and you get a nice leg swivel as well going on. These do slightly come out a little bit, so you do get the bigger gap in there depending on the angle you have them at. So you get the slight range of motion there, about 3-4 mil either side, and then the whole leg itself will swivel. So that does really help in getting him into those poses with the legs spread out, whereas some of the other figures can be a bit more limiting with their design there. Moving down to the knees, yeah, these are really nice. They spread out really fast, so you get a good range going up and over, and then it blends in pretty nice. My one, the left knee, the bottom part moves okay, but the top part is a bit stiff, in comparison, but he does get into the same pose as well. You just have to be a little bit more forceful there. So that's something to keep in mind. If your figures are a bit stiff, you can warm them up with some water. Don't force them too hard, because that is when you will cause breakages. If you get a figure and you have an issue where it won't move at all, even though you've tried warming it, go contact your local supplier, your distributor, and talk to them, and they'll be able to source you a replacement part. Bandai's pretty good at giving replacement legs, arms for any joints like that, but you have to do it as soon as you get it, and obviously have your proof of purchase and so forth. So yeah, if you have an issue, wait, check, contact support instead of breaking it. If you force it, that is when breakages will happen. Down to his feet here, these have decent range. There's a decently sized ball joint down there, but his paint design limits the motion up and down a little bit compared to some figures. Not too bad, but a little bit more motion there would have been quite nice. He does have a tilt action going on too, and yeah, the toe tip joint is really smooth on this figure and easy to use. For the tail, as I mentioned earlier, it's just got the one single joint in there, so it swivels up and down, and then you can turn on that joint as well. So despite the single joint, you do get a nice range of motion and decent variety in his posing, which is quite nice. Now for some comparison for the articulation. It helps that Super Saiyan 4 Goku is shirtless, so he doesn't really have any clothes, folds or design on his shoulders to stop his motion, compared to the normal Gi Goku, where he can't really raise his arm up unless you swing it upside down, and then it just kind of gets a little bit weird with his cloth flap here. For his elbow range there, it's pretty similar, though it does help that the shoulder can raise up a bit higher, so it does look nicer on the Super Saiyan 4 body type. Now for the inner chest area, you can see the curvature which comes right in through his pecs, whereas on the Gi we don't have that inner cut, and that is the area which allows us to get right through and forward motion on the newer model. Whereas with the original Goku, you're a lot more limited in the range that you can come in. So I think that would be one area where I'd love to see them redesign the normal Goku body, and it seems like they're doing that with the new release of Krillin, and I think the Naruto figures as well. Even though they've got clothes, they've got the slight body redesign, which does allow for a greater range of articulation. So hopefully they keep this trend and go through and do some redesigns for Goku. Next we can check out the range of motion with his knees and the flexibility. You can definitely see a nice curvature in the back of the Super Saiyan 4 there, compared to the Goku figure. Now Goku has a really good range of motion with his legs and the knee bend, but the back motion, I mean, it's pretty comparable, but I think it's a slightly reduced compared to the Super Saiyan 4. I think the bulk on the Super Saiyan 4 pants is what's going to get in the way of articulation there, whereas the Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku, his pants aren't quite as bulky, so you can definitely get their articulation up and over a lot higher than the Super Saiyan 4. So I was quite surprised to see how good the original Goku here does hold up. I feel like the main limiting factor on the figure itself is obviously in that chest design, so hopefully we do see some changes there going forward. Next up, let's check out the faces on the Goku figure here, and yeah, just like every release recently, the quality, printing and detailing is really nice. You've got the lines underneath his eyes there, you've got some colouring, shading on his forehead and above his eyebrows as well. It's got the nice red colour in there, as well as the yellow pupils. So yeah, I think overall the face looks really nice. Detailing and sculpt of his lower mouth is really nice as well. So yeah, this is the kind of angry, frowny look, and let's put on another face and check that out. And to change the face on this figure, you pop the bangs off the top there, and then that will give you access to the faceplate, which is a little bit tighter to get on and off at times, but it does have a 1-2 peaks there, So peg holes and the one peg which will go into the back of the face plate. So overall it's pretty easy to change. I think this is probably my favourite face, the smiling smirk look there, and just like the previous face, all the sculpting and detailing looks really nice. I love the colours of the eyes and the kind of the shading underneath as well is really nice. And here we have the side looking teeth gritting face, and again, yeah, like all the rest, looks really nice. It's kind of looking to the side and up a little bit, so I guess if you have the face kind of tilted down on an angle, it'll work best. This is the final face, and there's the mouth wide open, kamehameha. The sculpting colouring in there is really nice. The teeth are really well highlighted with the white and the pink tongue, and it seems like they've got a slight darker colour on the inside of the mouth as well, which is nice. It does give you that depth and detail in there. The sculpt and the frowning, the sort of like the scrunching of his forehead is really nice, and it suits the look really well. So yeah, this is the face I used doing the kamehameha effect. So yeah, let's chuck on the hands for that and have a look at that along with his ki blast. So to change the hands, all you do is grab the wrist and the hand you want to take off, and we'll just pull straight off. The pegs look really nice and clean on this figure as well. They are a bit harder to put on compared to previous figures, so if yours is quite stiff, you can always put the hands in some warm water to soften up the plastic. Though so far I haven't had too many issues. As long as you just push straight on where the peg is facing, you shouldn't have any issues. So we've got the ki blast here. I've got all apart from one highlight slotted in. Each one is a slightly different size, and they do have their own unique shape, and they fit in extremely well. So if you are having issues putting it together, just try another hole and it should be fine. There's a single round peg hole there which we will use to plug into the hand. And that slots on really nice. So we've got the ki blast there attached to his hand, and due to the nice redesign in this chest, he can get those arms around extremely well, and yeah, it gives it a really nice looking pose. I'm not the best at doing the standard kamehameha pose anyway, so for those that are really pro at posing, you're going to have a lot of fun with this figure. And for people that aren't good at posing, this makes it a lot easier, and that's something that I'm always thankful for, especially when it comes to posing. But yeah, it looks really nice. The colouring on the effect is really nice as well. It kind of has that nice deep dark pinkish red, and then it kind of gets lighter towards the tips. So yeah, overall, really happy with this ki blast. I hope they do more like this in future figures. So we've got the same rays on Earth Goku here, along with the new Super Saiyan 4 Goku for a bit of a size comparison. And yeah, we can definitely see that the new Goku is definitely slightly bigger than the same rays on Earth one. The shoulder height isn't too much of a difference. It's more just, I guess, the volume of hair and the way the head is standing up a bit higher. But yeah, I think that's about right for the show. He did get slightly bigger when he did go into this transformation. So in terms of all the figures combined together, I think yeah, the scaling has worked out really well for this figure. Having these two next to each other really does kind of show the higher quality on these figures compared to the older ones. I mean, same as on Earth Goku is still a lovely figure, but he's a bit older now, and he was a very cheap retail release at the I think what 3,800 yen is his general retail price, so about 2,000 yen cheaper than the Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So it'd be nice if we can kind of get some Goku figures coming in this range of quality. I think that'll be really nice to see. Pros and cons time to see if this figure really did live up to his hype and anticipation or not. For the pros, yeah, I feel like the overall design and aesthetic of this figure looks absolutely amazing. I'm loving the colours, that kind of red with a kind of subtle cherry pinkish hue to it. I think is really nice as well. I think the joints over here is really good, how it does give you that slight articulation for the two main bangs here, and as well as the hair on the back. I like the colours as well. When I saw the promo pics, I was a bit on the fence, but I feel like seeing it in person, it definitely does look a lot nicer. Yeah, the articulation, especially in his upper chest region, is really nice. I'm loving you can get him into those Kamehameha poses without too much issues. It would have been nice to see a bit more articulation, I guess, in the inner chest section. But that's only a small con. The other cons for this figure, The faceplates are a little bit fiddly to get on. I quite like the full power Goku design where it was a lot chunkier, easy to put on and off. These ones are a bit smaller up there. That is a little bit of a small con. The other one, I guess some people probably mentioned it already, is the extra gap you do have on the front of his legs there, and that does kind of depend what pose you have him in. It's not a huge con for me, but maybe if they could have designed it slightly wider in the center area there so it would cover that gap a bit nicer, that could have been quite good. I would have liked to seen another tail design as well to give us a bit more variety, though this one here with the S shape does work really well. For me, this particular figure, the left knee joint is a little bit stiff. If it was exactly like the other one, it would have been perfect. But yeah, other than that, cons, I don't really have anything. I think it did live up to the hype actually. I was a bit worried that it wouldn't, but I'm satisfied with it. I really like him. I'm looking forward, super pumped to get a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Hopefully they announce one sometime soon. I'm really surprised they didn't in the Tamashii Nations online event. Maybe they're kind of holding out to see how well this figure does. But yeah, I know online you can't really find this figure anywhere. It's going to be pretty hard to get. He is retail, so you should get a restock, especially if he is popular. So with a bit of luck, he'll become like Bardock, where he'll be pretty easy to get online or in store. Now, if you do want to see more photos of this figure, jump on rockchala.com, linked below. There's 360 images for the man himself, as well as his box and a variety of images, and I'll be posting more on Instagram as well. So if you enjoyed this review, please do like, subscribe, and definitely comment below what you think about this figure, if you're pumped from him, and what other figures from the GT line you're looking forward to seeing. Yeah, again, thank you very much for watching. Cheers!